We're back with former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who's here to talk about his new book, Beyond Charlottesville, Taking a Stand Against White Nationalism. It's out in July and looks at what led to the violent Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville and how Virginia and the country continue to deal with racism. Good to have you here. Certainly your state of Virginia continues to deal with racism. The governor, Northam, who we heard from last week, has refused to resign. Despite near universal calls among elected Democrats to do so. Can he survive?
Yes, I think he's made the decision he's going to stand, but the way that Ralph survives and brings Virginia back together, he's got to lean in on these very important issues, which I talk about in the book. He's got to use executive authority as governor. You know, I used executive authority. I took the Confederate flag off the Virginia license plates. I banned the box on any state employment forms. And as you know, I restored the felon rights of 173,000 individuals, more than any governor in U.S. history. I was sued by the Republicans. We ultimately won. And the reason I was so adamant about doing that was because of Virginia's racial history. It goes back to the Jim Crow laws. In 1902, a state senator, disenfranchisement of felons, a poll tax, and a literacy test, to put it in our Constitution. And his quote that day is, "I'm doing this to eliminate the darky from being a political factor in Virginia." Well, 114 years later, there was a new sheriff in town, and I was able to enfranchise all these people to give them a second chance. And this is what our leadership in Virginia needs to do. We need to lean in. We've had a horrible history. You look at Charlottesville, Margaret, I can't even say to you on TV what I heard that day against members of the African-American community and members of the Jewish faith. These people walking down the streets, you know, they used to wear hoods. They used to do it at night because they were embarrassed. They don't feel they have to wear hoods anymore, and they can do it in broad daylight. Something has gone wrong in our country. And I talk in the book about how we got to bring our country back together again. We got to deal with the issues of the past, but we need to go forward.
What about the Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, who faces sexual assault charges? Can he survive?
Very serious allegations have been made. They need to be investigated. He has called for an investigation. The two women have called for an investigation. I believe this week in Massachusetts, they've opened up an investigation, and I believe the Duke University has opened up an investigation. So we will go through that process. What I'm hoping now is what has happened here that, you know, we're a great state, and I was very proud as governor. I eliminated all the horrible biases that we had. Remember when I came into office, the Republicans had wanted to shut all the women's clinics down. We had horrible legislation against women, the transvaginal bill, horrible legislation against members of the LGBT. We got rid of all that. We became open, welcoming. That's why we got Amazon. There was no question. You know, I put the bid in.
I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, that's why we got Amazon. You cannot succeed as a governor. You cannot grow your state unless you're perceived as open and welcoming to everyone.
Well, so New York, as you know, Amazon pulled out of New York after they had bid for this facility there. But some of the outcry locally and then nationally from progressives was saying this is a win against big corporations. This is a win for the little guy. I mean, for you, what do you think the impact is? Does this in any way paint the Democratic Party as well as anti-business?
I certainly hope not. Listen, I put the bid in for Amazon in September 17 while I was governor. Before I put the bid in, I worked with my state legislators. I worked with all of the local communities in Northern Virginia and Richmond and Hampton Roads. So when our bid went in, everybody was all in. I cannot for the life of you understand after this bid went in why the locals came out against it. You should have done the due diligence before you submitted the bid. It just doesn't make any sense. But more importantly, our bid, and we won, and we're going to create 25 up to 37,000 jobs in Virginia, high-paying jobs. You've got to build an economy for the future. I just read a report that artificial intelligence will eliminate 40% of the world's jobs in the next 2 decades. You better be creating new 21st century jobs. We welcome Amazon. Now, they don't get any money until they come in, create the jobs, and pay the taxes. It's all how you structure the deal. So if Jeff Bezos, if you're watching here, thank you for coming to Virginia. You don't want to go to New York? I would tell you, bring the other jobs to Virginia. We are an open, welcoming, dynamic state. We're the #1 state for cyber, for data, for unmanned systems.
I've got to, before I let you go, though, ask you, March 31st, you've set as your deadline to announce whether you're running for president. What are you waiting for? Is it Joe Biden?
I'm not. I have spoken with the vice president. I've made hundreds and hundreds of calls across the country, talked to potential staff, and listen, we're close to make a decision. I want to see where the field is. I do think we need in this race a progressive governor who was very jobs-oriented, very successful in economic development. They're not mutually exclusive. A governor is a CEO. We build roads, we fix roads. We do need governors in this race because, you know, we don't just get to talk all day. We got to deliver every single day.
Well, we'd love to have you back and talk about it when you're ready to make a decision,
Thank you.
Governor.